So these can go on this side or this side. They can go on both sides. Half red and half blue, they can go on both sides, in the red objects also and blue objects also. So that was the beauty here, how he defined it. Next slide in this. He said objects also and blue objects also. The lower approximation. So that was the beauty here, how he defined it. Next slide complete mathematics, but in the I have to explain you. He defined a lower member shape, lower approximation. He said and also and blue upper approximation. The lower approximation. So that was the red balls here, how he defined it. Next slide red squares. But in the I have to explain you. He defined a lower member shape, blue balls. He said and also and blue upper approximation. The lower approximation. That was the red balls which are how he defined it. Next slide red squares and 5 squares which are half red and I have to explain you. He defined a lower member shape, blue balls. He said what is that? Lower approximation. That was the red balls which are how he defined it. 10 red balls squares and 5 squares which are half red and I have to explain you. With certainty I can say that shape, blue balls. He said what is that? Now what is the approximation? That was the red balls which are how he defined it. 10 red balls which are half red and 5 squares which are 5 squares which are half red and red. With certainty I can say that object blue balls. He said what is that? Now what is the approximation? That was the red balls which are how he defined it. 1 red balls which are half red and 5 squares which are 5 squares which are red. With certainty I can say that object blue balls. He said what is that? Lower approximation. Red balls which are how he defined it. 1 red balls which are half red and 5 squares which are 5 squares which are red. With certainty I can say that object blue balls. He said what is that? Lower approximation. Red balls which are how he defined it. 1 red balls which are half red and 5 squares which are 5 squares which are red. With certainty I can say that object blue balls. He said what is that? Lower approximation. Red balls which are how he defined it. 1 red balls which are half red and 5 squares which are 5 squares which are red. With certainty I can say that object blue balls. He said what is that? Lower approximation. Red balls which are how he defined it. 1 red balls which are half red and 5 squares which are 5 squares which are red. With certainty I can say that object blue balls. He said what is that? Lower approximation. Red balls which are how he defined it. 1 red balls which are half red and 5 squares which are 5 squares which are red. With certainty I can say that object blue balls. He said what is that? Lower approximation. Red balls which are how he defined it. 1 red balls which are half red and 5 squares which are 5 squares which are red. With certainty I can say that object blue balls. set please. So I was talking of nucleosophic sets, and the concept is of degree of indeterminacy or neutrality, and he defined the three things: true, false and indeterminate or neutral. The three concepts he took up, and he has given equal weight to them. Later on I'll show you. And this nucleosophic set, and these are just generalization of functional red objects also and pure mixtures. And this nucleosophic probability, so that was the beauty here, generalizations of statistics and probability. Weight to them. Later on I'll show you. And this nucleosophic set, these are just generalization of functional red objects also and pure mixtures. And this nucleosophic probability, so that was the beauty here, generalizations of statistics and probability. Rather than weight to them, later on I'll show you. And this nucleosophic set, these are all sections, and he considers proposition that was the theory here in relation to them being all laws of entropy. And this nucleosophic set, these are all sections, and he considers proposition that was the theory here in relation to them being all laws of entropy. And this all sections, this is So we are discussing about soft set. So soft set is a parameterized family of subsets of a universal set. That means if U is a universal set and E is a set of parameters and P is a power set means set of all subsets of U becomes a power set. Subsets of all the set of all the subsets of U is a power set of U. So it's a power set. Then we select some parameters A from the set of parameters E, and we try to map them with the the power set. That means these parameters, according to these parameters, the subsets of U will be selected, and that's why we call it as parameterized family of subsets of the universal set. So these are subsets. Power set contains all its subsets, and your parameter, according to your parameter, some subsets will be selected based on your choice, and this choice will depend upon your perception. So we are modeling perception here. Your perception is different from my perception. You see how Jade looked at the set, how Gao and Burer looked at the set, he defined weight set, and then how Samrandanche looked at the set and he defined neutrosophic sets. So it's a perception according to which the angle from which you are looking at anything, according to you are you are getting the results. So human thinking is granular in nature. This is granularity. All subsets will consist of smaller ones to bigger ones. So that is called granularity. You go to the smallest ones and up to biggest ones. So that's the way human thinking works. And same thinking, this Molsdorf model with the help of soft set. Now let's take an example. Suppose you go to market to buy a dress. What is your objective? To buy a good dress. Alright? Now a good dress for you may be different and a good dress for me may be different. Your perception is different and my perception is different. Somebody from north, he has different choices. Somebody from south has different choices. So perception is different. Now, how do you define a good dress then? With the help of fuzzy set, can you define a good dress? No. With the help of weight set, we cannot define a good dress. With the help of nutrosophic set also, we are not able to define a good dress. Good dress will be defined by a set of parameters. You have certain parameters according to which you say that this is a good dress. Say my parameters, I have 3 parameters. It should be cheap. The first parameter is it should be cheap. My second parameter is it should be durable. And the third parameter is it should be attractive. So I look for these 3 parameters when I am choosing my dress in the market. Even when you go in the market, the shopkeeper also will ask you, what is your range? And then he will start showing the dresses in that range only. So the range will depend on my pocket, each one's pocket. You may have a different range and I may have a different range. So this is one parameter. So for you, a dress may be very expensive and it may be very economic for me. Again, it's different. So it depends on the perception, your own choice. So shopkeeper also starts showing you the dresses in that range. Then you say that no, these are not durable. These are fancy type. You show me durable. Then he will start showing you durable. Then you say that no, these are not attractive. Show some more attractive. So he starts showing attractive among them, durable, attractive. So the selection goes off from top to bottom. So this is called granularity. So parameter by parameter, you are going and then you are looking for the combinations of those parameters to satisfy yourself that this is the thing you want. And the shopkeeper knows your psychology, so he also will start showing you according to that only. He also doesn't want to waste your time. But yes, if he feels that you are not going to buy it, then he will try to confuse you by his own praise. So that's a different issue. So my dress depends on my 3 parameters, and accordingly I go on selecting and selecting and selecting, and I reach a point where a dress meets all my 3 parameters. I select that dress. This is soft set. This is the way soft set is able to work. This soft set you can apply in many types of, say when you are doing an analysis of the sequences, again you have certain perception. Based on your perception you will perform the analysis. Okay. So I will come to that point tomorrow in my next lecture, how perception comes into picture when you are doing analysis like association mining or sequential pattern mining. There your perception will come into and you model it by the soft set. So this is the definition of soft set. Next, now soft set again. Again, there is an example given in this slide, and I'll go to the next one quickly. Move to next. Okay. Now a lot of work is going on the soft sets. 1999 soft set were discovered by Molstove, defined by him, and for next 10 years there was very little work done in this area. You will see very few papers during 10 years up to 2009 or 10, and after 2010 you will find a lot of people are working on soft sets, and it has applications both sides in the pure mathematics as well as applied. And people are applying it to a lot of problems of real life, industry problems, real life, biology and so on, so many. So there is a spurt of activity in this area since 2010 onwards. And there are many more developments in the soft sets also which have not been explored in applications also till date. So there is a huge scope for using this. So I feel that this can be used in your exposome analysis. I think nobody has used it. We have used it for genomic level and proteomic level association mining and all those things, but you can explore it at the exposomic level. Same algorithms with some modifications can be used. So I'll show you some algorithms tomorrow in my next lecture. So this is a product of two soft sets. This has been defined as a term of mathematics, so I will not go much into details. All of you may not be familiar. Now we are working here in the field of data mining. Basically, data mining I have already explained in my lecture, and we use work on mainly association rule mining. So data mining is what? Knowledge discovery in large databases. I explained to you in the previous lecture. So we have been working on association rule mining, finding associations among our association patterns, and we have done a lot of work on finding associations in the DNA sequences and the protein sequences. Say proteins of tuberculosis. If I take the proteins of tuberculosis, protein sequence of tuberculosis, what kind of associations patterns are found in the tuberculosis or dengue virus? So some students have done PhD from here and they have worked on this, and we have some publications also in this areas. You can go on the web and you can just type the name and you will get it, all those publications also. You can look into those details. Now there is certain formula which is followed for association rule mining, basic formula which will come just now. There is a gap of 30 seconds when I click this slide. So I explained to you, yes, this is the formula support. Support is based on what? Let us say A is milk and B is bread. So if somebody comes to buy milk, say there are 100 customers who come to buy the items at the shop, out of that 80 customers buy milk. So what is the frequency of milk? Sigma A is frequency of milk, sigma A, 80. Sigma means frequency, how frequently milk is bought, 80. Then say 60 people buy milk and bread together. So frequency of milk and bread together is 60. And total number of customers is N. So N is 100. So support for people who buy milk and bread together is 60%. 60 upon 100 is 60%. And confidence is 60 upon 80. That is 75%. This I have explained to you yesterday also. So this is the basic formula of probability which is used. The first formula is simply the probability of milk and bread bought together, and the second formula is basically the conditional probability. If somebody buys milk, what is the probability that he will buy bread also? So that is 75% possibility. So that way we work on this aspect. Okay, so these are the measures which we follow here. Then this again we have defined the soft set, and after soft sets we have defined the fuzzy soft set also. What is fuzzy soft set? So soft set is giving you what? The degree of relationship of elements of a set with your parameter. Your parameter may be different and my parameter may be different. So your results may be different and my results will be different. With what angle you are looking and with what angle I am looking, the results will be different. So, in fuzzy soft, what I do, my parameters are also fuzzy. I say, I want a dress which should be cheap. Then how much cheap? 80% cheap. My range is say 0 to 500. So if the cost is 0, then it is 100% cheap. And if the cost is greater than 500, it is 0% cheap. And if the cost is 250, then it is 50% cheap. So I can make my parameter also fuzzy. So relation of parameter with my object, that is dress, or the element of the set, or all the dresses are the element of the set which are in the shop. So my relation with my parameters and my parameter become fuzzy, so it is fuzzy soft. Then I can talk of soft fuzzy also. In soft fuzzy, what I do, I first define a fuzzy set. The degree of relationship among the elements of the set. So what would be that degree? Some dresses will be too tight, some will be too loose, and some will be fit. So what is the degree of relationship among them? The degree of relationship of fitness of the dress. So that will be a fuzzy set. Okay. So fitness will be a fuzzy set. How fit it is overfit or underfit. And then my parameters: cheap, durable, attractive, so it is soft fuzzy. And then I can have fuzzy, soft fuzzy. So the relationship of the dresses among themselves, how fit they are in size. Then their relationship with my parameter: cheap, durable, attractive. And then my parameters are also fuzzy. How much cheap, how much durable, and how much attractive. So fuzzy, soft, fuzzy. And then, so this type of work we have already done. Fuzzy, soft, fuzzy, fuzzy, soft, fuzzy. These things we have done here. Our students have done, and one of my students has used type 2 fuzzy soft and soft type 2 fuzzy he has defined, but we have not gone beyond that, or we have not defined fuzzy soft type 2 fuzzy or type 2 fuzzy soft fuzzy or type 2 fuzzy. So many combinations can be explored depending upon the uncertainty which is involved in your data sets. So this is whole data science. We are dealing with veracity in the data. So yesterday I explained you 4 V's: velocity. A lot of people are working on velocity in the data. Data is arriving with large velocity, so how algorithms can be defined so that they can be mining the important information and so on. Then volume, large volumes of data, again lot of work is going, that is hardware level work. Then variability of the data, it leads to dimensions of the data become larger and larger, and how to deal with that. So they use clustering and all those things to reduce the dimensionality reduction. Some work is going on that. But the veracity, very few people are working on it. So most of the algorithms you will find GVAS, PVAS, EVAS, whatever it is there, they use the standard algorithms with some modifications to, without giving weights to these relationships, they are doing it, and their results are approximate, but this approximation can be improved by using our combinations of soft set, fuzzy sets, and different types of fuzzy sets and different types of soft sets. So I am discussing only one type of soft set here. There are 8 different types of soft sets again. So we have only explored only one type of soft set, that's what I am discussing here. You can explore the other remaining 7 types of soft sets also, and you can define so many algorithms with the help of that. So I will talk of okay. So now we define the give some definitions. Transaction. It has gone. It will come back. Transaction. T equal to X. T is equal to X, where X belongs to I. I is an item set. When you go on the shop, there are items on the shop. I represents the item set, and X is an item. And there are certain items in your transaction. You buy something, say you would buy 10 items, so 10 items will be there in your transaction. We define soft transaction. X, I select the item based on my parameter. So I define the parameter E also. I select the sequence, biological sequence depending on my parameter. I am selecting long sequences first. I want to analyze the sequences based on their length. Long sequences, short sequences, and medium sequences. The results will be different for all the three. This is what we have done. So my parameter and this. Then we define the fuzzy membership in a different way. Measure of item upon measure of transaction. Now measure will depend upon your perception. Whereas in the books you will find the measure as if there are 10 items in a transaction, so every item has how much possibility of purchasing? 1 by 10. If you buy 10 items, then what was the possibility of each item to be purchased? 1 by 10. But we don't view in that way. That way, all the algorithm, fuzzy algorithm, you will find in that manner only. But we have changed that concept here. So this definition has been given by us. We call it a measure of the item and measure of the transaction. The measure of transaction, if transaction contains 10 items, the measure is 10. But how I measure X, my item? Either consider the item as one single entity, so it becomes 1 by 10. Or if I consider some other measure of my item, then this membership will become different. So I showed you that example just now. So this is the modification we have done in our work. Transaction, this definition exists in the literature. Soft transaction exists in the literature. Fuzzy transaction exists in the literature. Fuzzy transaction is X, mu X, item and its membership. Soft fuzzy transaction has been defined by us. It is X, its membership based on the parameter. So fuzzy soft transaction, item X, parameter, based on the parameter item X was selected, and what is the membership of my parameter, how much cheap it is or how much attractive it is. That's it. And we have defined fuzzy soft fuzzy transaction. You can combine the two, you get fuzzy soft fuzzy. So these are the definitions we have given. I'll show you how this measure is working. That's the beauty here, and that's a change, and that's based on the perception. So next slide will come in few seconds. So measure is quantitative measure of item in the transaction. It's some quantitative measure. Let's say tea and sugar sell together. If you buy one tea, so when you buy tea, you also buy sugar. So what is the possibility of tea and sugar bought together? Half. Because you are buying two items only, so each has the probability half. But here I am saying is, I am looking at a different perception. When you buy 1 kilogram of tea, you buy 4 kilogram of sugar also. So the ratio is different. So what is the weight? Membership is 1 by 5 and 4 by 5. Membership has changed and your results will change. So there is the difference. Then again, when I look at the money value of the transaction, my perception has changed now. If I look at the money value of the transaction, the tea costs 200 rupees and sugar costs 40 rupees per kg, and tea is costing 200 rupees per kg. So what is the value of my transaction? 200 plus 160, 360. Out of 360, sugar, tea is 200 by 360 and sugar is 160 by 360. My perception changed. I am looking at the transaction from money value, the results will be different. I look at the transaction from the weight, the quantity, the results will be different. And if I consider them as equal entities, the results will be different. So this is what we are looking at. We improved in our this thing, and this thing we found in the sequences. In a DNA sequence, how many times A appears? How many times C appears, and how many times T appears, and how many times G appears? It's not equal 25, 25. If the length of the sequence is 100, you'll never find that A appears 25 times and C appears 25 times and T appears 25 times and G appears 25 times. Their appearance will be different. Their ratio will be different. So their weight is. So what is the possibility of A appearing in a sequence and what is the possibility of C appearing in a sequence is different. The sequences, so according like we have worked out all these things. So I think I'll stop here. I've given you enough idea about the tools, soft set, fuzzy set, rough set and weight set. The remaining part I will take tomorrow. We will be talking on its application in association rule mining mostly. And I have given you the background for that. In the next lecture, your picture will be completely clear that how this uncertainty can be handled in association rule mining. So I'd like to conclude my this talk today with a few words. You are watching a flower and you say that this flower is beautiful, but the flower is not beautiful. The beauty lies in the eyes of the person who is watching the flower. This is soft set. Soft set models perception. So your perception is very important. With what angle you want to take those results, that is perception. That is soft set. Thank you very much. Thank you. If you have any questions, and next I invite Professor Patrizio to deliver his talk. It is now tutorial.
Sorry.
It's lecture. Today's lecture.
Okay. I'll put the four.
From here. You are just reading it.
If possible, I would like to make a small change. Instead, I would like to use the sixth lesson today instead of the
sixth lesson.
Okay, sixth lesson.
Lesson 6. Lessons for it.
Okay, six. Because it's more related to the topic, okay?
Okay.
Sixth lesson.
It's not changed with the other.
Okay, thank you. Like how what?
No, thank you. A small introduction. After the lesson of Professor Pardasani, I would like, I have changed a little bit the program. This morning, more or less, the two talk, the previous talk was focused on machine learning, fuzzy set, and think that a computational thing that can be useful for exposome or for many things in our life. I have changed the sequence of the lesson. I would like to present now a lesson focused on text mining, text analysis for exposure science. Why? Because if there is an area in which fuzzy set and this kind of mathematical approach is absolutely necessary, is probably the text mining. The text during these days, I underline that the text is one of the key elements in our database, in our procedure. Because many papers, scientific papers are text, many web are text, and many other things.
You're telling me.
Okay. 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 Thanks. You can see.
You can change from here. Either
From here?
For online,
Just you have to change from here. It will take 30 seconds to change.
Okay, okay.
You have to. It has come there. You see here.
Yeah.
It will come in 30 seconds here.
Wait. In any case, I can explain the slide because the text is a central point in our research activity, because paper are published, philosophy, mathematics, biology. Then in this case, we can see, unfortunately, the slide is the figure is not so clear, but there is the reference of paper in which there is the figure. And you can see that in the 10 years ago, more or less, started a project in which for some time I also was involved. That was called BioCreative, because project that was focused on development of machine learning application on biomedical text mining or biomedical information integration. I'm sorry, but you can believe me, there are different applications. For instance, the medical informatics, e-health analysis, drug information, or what you want, annotation of sequence, all are textual. And I hope the next, and this slide underline the central role of text mining and knowledge discovery in text in the biomedical field, and in the perspective, in a more complex way, in the exposome perspective, in the exposome view.
Just wait. Sir?
The next slide. Okay, sorry. This essentially shows to you what is the trends of text mining. Unfortunately, it's arrived more or less 4 years ago, after the many problems are arising. First of all, the tools are not too strongly efficient to analyze the text and to extract knowledge from the text. Because at the end of the history, the available system allows only to work at syntactic level. In the biomedical language discovery, as you can imagine, also linguistic expertise must be involved. Then, in addition to fuzzy sets, in addition to biological expertise, we need a specific linguistic approach. Normally the big projects are found on bio-NLP are based on English, because 90% of the papers and 90% of the sites are English. But there are other small problems that are related to the vocabulary, to the process, to the phase of text preprocessing, and so the management of some linguistic aspect in order to prepare the data for data mining. Thanks. Okay, this is a more recently approach of text mining for chemical, because also chemicals and pharmaceutical need works on text. In this field, there is an additional problem, because we have strings that represent the formula of the compounds. Officially, there are literal and numerical strings, very long in many cases. For instance, you can see here the name of the chemical compound. Then the management in a text mining perspective, the management of these names without loss of the meaning of the compound is very important. In a system that split a text containing the name of a chemical substance, normally the line that connect different parts of the name, of the comma, or the parentheses that are used for defining it will be removed. And the name is broken in different parts as a common textual word. Then the problem in this case was to to maintain the integrity of the meaning of the chemical word. On the other part, you have chemical entities, that is chemical compound. You can have the abbreviation given for their target, gamma-aminobutyric, DMSO, that are biological acronyms. On the other is the name or identification of the CAS number, the number of the compounds, and here you can see the formula, as I explained yesterday using smiles or other. And this is the name. The problem is how to record these names in a perspective of text mining. Thank you. Okay. In which way natural language text mining and natural language processing can contribute to EXPOSOME? Essentially, given data, organizing data, and transforming data in a way that for any data mining system can operate. The contribution is mainly related to those information are not associated with the measurement of then quantitative information. Then, as you can see, abstracts or, for instance, report or or also, for instance, the legends of tables in a paper or the legend of the figures that we can have talked yesterday. They analyze the knowledge of consistency of multi-sensor monitoring. It's the same because the idea that you receive multiple sensors, any station or any system give you also some report, and this report normally are a textual part. You can use this textual part to have a landscape of what the system have recorded. Integration of clinical and epidemiological data with social information. Mainly the epidemiological data and the epidemiological report are descriptive statistics that give for a specific population morbidity, mortality, or what you want. And you have a synthetic statistic. You don't have in many papers the data in a disaggregated form. You have statistics. And social information is the same. Mainly is given by descriptive statistics. Discovery of the very important support is the discovery of previous unseen relation between molecular and environmental information. This is strongly related with the lesson of Professor Pardasani, because each text is a transaction that in which there are different words, different things that can be used. The association between the discovery of new association with the high plausibility or high statistical relevance in general sense, is important to find to discover new relation among, for instance, pollutants and pollution level and genetic modification. Analyze the consistency of toxicological screening is the same that is another approach like multi-sensor monitoring. We have a lot of information, a lot of high throughput screening. In this case, the text normally is in a report. For instance, in the case that we have analyzed antibodies array, you will receive a report with the tables in Excel of the raw results, and you will receive also some characteristic of the results as a report. Thanks. Okay, you can see now the some of the main sources of unstructured information. Obviously, the first anyone knows PubMed. The second is online Mendelian inheritance in man. That is the database of genetic disease. In fact, this is a collection of description of the genetics and the links to other databases such as SNPs database, Human Genome Database, or Ensemble, or what you want. But the description and some symptoms of the disease is textual. The other is ToxNet. ToxNet give information, structural information, offers also the SMILE code or other kind of coding, but in any case we have a high content of textual information. And one must mine only the field of this database to check, to increase the data or to enrich the textual set. Hugo Genome Committee is the committee that assign the name of gene, and for each gene there is the description of gene. It's not relevant, but it's relevant because this database allows to link, in some cases, protein with a gene. Making an analysis of proteome, many protein, there is not a direct link, there was not a direct link between proteome and genome. The code of UniProt is not the code of gene database. If you use if you plans to link the output of an instrument from proteome, you must convert the protein code into code of genome. Then the list given and the description given the Hugo dataset is important to preserve to perform the correct correlation. The last is chemical abstract registry that contains all the information about chemical. Obviously, it contains chemical physical property, molecular descriptors, and other things, but it also has a ToxNet have a field with textual information. Thanks. Okay. The basic step of linguistic preprocessing is, first of all, is download your data set and remove from this textual data set all the empty abstract. As probably each one of you can have it directly tested, you go search a title on PubMed, and sometimes abstract is not available. Officially, the title, officially the paper could be interesting for you, but you cannot modify, you cannot use to make the analysis. In this case, could be an incomplete data or missing data. The second part is the second standard step is the stemming. The stemming is to find the root of a word. There are, for English, that is the standard language for this method, there are 2 or 3 different stemming systems that allow to remove the suffix from a word. For instance, genomic disappear omic, remain gene. Inhibition or inhibitors, you can remove or rest inhibit. The stemming seems a silly step, but an incorrect stemming can generate confusion in the creation of the set of words, because you won't work on genomics, but the stemmer will remove omics, and the resulting is gene plus genomics. Okay, then one must improve the discrimination between genomics and gene, because the stemmer for gene remove the E, for the other remove the omic, and the root is the same. Obviously, that is the same because the one is derived, is a derived word. The third is the stop word removal. That is also a big problem because stop word are word with without any information. For instance, pronouns, adverbs, some kinds of adjective or other are not relevant are not informational in the basic line. They can acquire information if they became non-coding. If I attempt to clean an abstract having non-coding RNA, and in the abstract non is separate, there is no trait, no line between non and coding, or even there is also a connection between two. A system of parsing the text, remove the non, and you have coding. It's the same thing, the same situation of genes. Then the stop word removal is another possibility to reduce the capability of syntactic and semantic analysis, but it can be solved in the complete text analysis. The word frequency count, Professor Pardasani talking about items, then an abstract you can consider a transaction in which there are many words. You can, how many house there is an abstract. Then you can count the words after the previous steps, and you can make a frequency, estimate the frequency distribution of each word. The word frequency count normally give you a lot of words. Then we must filter out this word because many cannot really informative. The two ways to filter the word are the common zip flow or the Shannon entropy estimation for each word. For each word in the document in a data set, your text is an object, is a part of a data set, and you can estimate normally the people use the zip flow in order to reduce the number of words that will be extracted for data transformation. Then the last, when you have finished this procedure, you can transform a symbolic information, symbolic data into a numeric. The vectoral space representation is a vectoral form of a text, of a document, in which each location is represented by a specific frequency parameter of the selected word. Then at the end you have a matrix with each location has on the row are the document and the column are the selected word. We can manage more than 100 words, please. An important operation word on text mining is the named entity recognition. A named entity is a word that unique define an object. India is a named entity. DNA is a named entity because there is a direct association one-to-one and no other ambiguity can be done. As you can see, that named entity in a application of data mining can be the fixed point, the sure knowledge that can be used. For instance, DNA, RNA, or other thing can be easy to eat. The acronyms of the enzyme, for instance. The second is the latent semantic analysis that is normally is based on single value decomposition of factor analysis or now, on many machine learning tools. That it's impossible to discover the association between the terms and in order to find a Gordon association. Please. Different form of word. Why I insert this slide? Because there are different the word coming from different area, from different contexts. Common language word are the common English word, what that you can find in a vocabulary. Acronyms that you know very well, enzyme acronyms or what you want. Chemical names that I said before are a very complex structure, and we must be capable to maintain this meaning. And numbers, why? Because in some abstract, some text, there are also numerical information that can be, for instance, many abstract can see the performance of this analysis is 40%, or how C value is 75%, or what you want. These numbers can be interesting, mainly if it is possible not only working on abstract, but analyzing all the text of the paper. It's possible now to work directly on PDF, involve PDF, and extract some information. This is very interesting because it's a process to improve the speed to extract the data that can be used for the creation of a repository or for EXPOSOME in some situation. But the number must be considered as a word, otherwise the cleaning system removes from the text. Please. Okay, example of data mining application in biomedicine. The first is for instance, the first author uses the active and deep learning to creating information in computational neuroscience. Then, what is the aim? Okay, I need to merge together the information. I need to check the quality of the curation. We come back to the ontology, we come back to the same thing, the quality of information. The second is using text mining for identification in systematic review and systematic review approach that is related to the system biology, to find a relation that can be used to modify modeling, mathematical modeling system in system biology. The other is is a search on clinical trial. The other is this is interesting because is text mining using, let me say, in a social field, because there is a problem about alcohol dependency. And the last is an overview on, of text mining applied to polyaromatic hydrocarbons, in dust and particulate. This is the last, is very recent, is of this year, and applying this kind of approach to analyze the present or the relation and the toxicity of this kind of pollutants in dust. Please. Okay, the biomedical literature-based discovery can be the aim is finding new biomedical scientific knowledge, integrating the existing knowledge, embedded in published scientific literature. That is absolutely the same thing that I've spoken in the previous lesson, Professor Basaldani. Open discovery is the process to generate an hypothesis from textual information on a specific concept that is called a concept. The set is filtered in order to generate an intermediate set called B concept used to mine the database. We start with data of a concept, but for mining the database we use this set of filters that can be a decrease in the quality of let me say, of membership of some features for the query, because it's decrease. The B concept is less consistent than the previous one for a specific topic. The last step is the link of source and target by using the search has generated a third set, that is a C set. The final step is link the source and target using bridge the B set. The closest discovery instead is the process that use the literature of source and target concept simultaneously. The connection can be an existing hypothesis, or the process can confirm the data that are available, or the process can extract a previously unknown relation. Please. This is a classical approach that has been presented by Mark Wiebel and others more than 10 years ago, but there are some tools that use also this system. The role of regulation of cytokine T1, Th1 and Th2, the differentiation, you can see that the Th1 go to interleukin 2 in lymphotoxin and interferon gamma, and T-cell mediated autoimmune disease. On the other side, interferon gamma is the intermediate between Th1 and Th2. Then it's allowed to identify that interferon gamma is capable to inhibit both. Interferon gamma in some way is the intermediate element that connect the two cytokine in this kind of analysis. Please, I hope there is one on that. Now there are some tools that one can attempt to use if some of them are still working. First is PubNet, that is managed by Mark Genstein, and is using a graph-based approach. The second is BioText Quest, that is only a system to find name entity into an abstract, and on the basis of entity, it is capable to analyze the context of this entity. The other are the more important that you can that is still working, and this system uses the previous approach of knowledge discovery, using a starting concept, an intermediate concept, and a target concept. And you can use, if it works directly, and you can test directly on your field. It's called Arrowsmith, has been developed by Swanson Esmolizer. Swanson is the professor that has developed the biomedical concept discovery using the two sets simultaneously. Text Espresso is an approach for text mining only for C. elegans. Bitola is another approach, if it's work, on literal-based discovery, finding new relation from essentially from PubMed database. There are many constraints in text mining and literal-based discovery. The first is the information exploitation. 20 years ago, in the last 20 years, the number of journals is exploited, and the number of abstracts also. Then the other is the increase is the number of databases. Today, in the January of this year, was estimated about 2,000 biological databases. 2,000. If you consider the data that in an exposome perspective, that we cannot exclude nothing except the primary database of what to do. The problem how to mine this database is really a very big data mining problem, and it is important to find something that to screen the content and to reduce the number of data sources for this thing. The second, the specialization created barrier, the knowledge fragmentation. I do not know how many computer scientists have some relation with clinician and with biotechnologies. The two languages are different. Then in order, this is the result of this high specialization is that if I am working on microRNA, for instance, I don't work on long non-coding RNA. Then my word is one word, your word is another word. Then increase the to estimate what non-coding RNA do in some regulation. In general, you must merge the two words or more words, and finding the elements that are common to them. And this is another problem. A computer scientist and a logic talking data mining or fuzzy set or concept, you can see here, there are two different approaches for the same concept, for the same thing. One formalism, one other formalism. The problem is to bridge together. Thanks. Oh, sorry. Come back. They need improved tools for literature searching. As I said in the previous talk, the teaching knowledge is difficult to manage, that is the subjective knowledge, and the evaluation of concept drift. Concept drift in reality is the uncertainty in some way, and the majority of tools are focusing on search of named entity research, not on semantic. Well, please. I think before to talking that you can find in wandering in this world is the concept of bag of word. The term indicates a certain multiplicity in one, univoc, that containing the word extracted from the document. If in a word there is 10 times house, the word is house. Then after transform have the count of the word, but the word is only one. In text mining, the bag of words are the data set used to perform the data transformation. Okay, I have 20 words, I make the count of these 20 words, and my vector container is a one-dimensional vector within 20 locations, and each location contains the frequency of what normalized frequency of what you want. The content can be affected by variation in textual information. Concept 3. If I make a data set now, or on, let me say on microRNA, let's 7 microRNA, and make a data set. Make my analysis, I will obtain a set of words that is in a matrix. This matrix is valid now, because if I make the same search after 2 years, probably the matrix will be changed. This is not probably, surely, because new abstract, new information go inside, and and the topic that I am searching can be have a description, a word description, a little bit different. This, please. Okay, another term that is important, that help us to reduce the number of words, is the term anchor term. Anchor term is the intersection, the intersection set between the word unique, the element of bag of word for document 1, and the element of bag of word for document 2. The intersection is the common element that, not on a specific topic, allows to reduce the complexity and the number and the dimensionality of the vector. Please. The other thing, come back to the lesson of Professor Pardasani, is the polarity of the concept. The polarity is defined as grammatical category associated with positive or negative meaning. We are in the hard set, 1, 0, positive, negative. In biomedical field, it's important to clearly identify the type of action: inhibition, stimulation, increase, or some kind of term. The polarity is positive or negative according to the classical definition given by Paul Brunza in the 1994. However, in scientific constant, it's important to introduce a third class. We are going to work to the fuzzy, and the third class of meaning that is defined by other element of the context. For instance, positive and negative. The example, protein P increase the mRNA decay, enhance the transcription. Negative, chemical compound X inhibit the enzyme P. But we have neutral polarity, stimulate, modify, change, in which the meaning, positive or negative, is unknown, but depends by the context, context in which this word occurred. For instance, one can say protein P stimulated the inhibition is a negative, or this drug stimulates the wound healing is positive. Then the problem is to identify this third class. That is a big problem that require, the identification require in which context this word is embedded. Please. Okay, I will show as an example. I think that an analysis that we have carried out some times ago. You can see the difference of the difference. These words was selected according Shannon entropy. Then instead the zip law. But in any case, give a good example about the change of knowledge during the time. You can see three queries: MAP kinases, CDK5, and beta amyloid. Because in this period we are working on Alzheimer. The aim of the project was to link some metabolic pathway to neuroscience dynamical model. The project, the proteomic, was not carried out because it's not possible in Italy to make sample from living patients, and we are switched to the text mining. You can see here that many things are agreed, but in any case, for instance, here in the case of MAPK, in the case of MAPK, here in this period we emerge as relevant terms MAP and MAPK. Here emerge also MAC. This suggests that in this period some research has added new knowledge. Then in amount that allowed to emerge a new potential partner of this of MAP kinases. You can see here that the verb is clearly negative, or encode is a positive because encode a protein or other. The second case is related to the CDK5. All three proteins are related to the Alzheimer's, but in this case we cannot find Alzheimer as the relevant term. And you can see the dynamic of here. For instance, here you have in the same periods we have CDK2. Here instead we have CDK4. For instance, it disappeared this protein, and it appeared the tau. Here there is the tau protein, and this is the and in this case disappeared. Then this table is only indicative about the dynamic of the knowledge that is deposited in the text, and this allows to us to understand what are the dynamic of the knowledge. What is the influence on exposome? On exposome, the can be considered instead of the time. You can consider the bag of word in a special region on the same, I don't know, Bhopal and Hyderabad. You make the same text analysis on the same topic. Could be on a newspaper. They can emerge different things or different words. Or in terms of exposome, if I analyze diagnostic record for cancer, I can find some difference in terms of diagnosis in different biomedical data sources and the clinical data source. This is only the message from this slide. Please. Okay. This is another approach that is related to a EU project to find drugs for cardiovascular disease. In this case, we have also arrived at a little bit higher level because we have analyzed the association about the terms. But in this case, it is interesting that we have the query and we have the difference of emerging terms in different periods. The first, for instance, are the same. You can see 95 in the first. The problem is clearly related to the stop word system. Why? Because you can see tyrosine and kinase separate as two different words. In the other word, tyrosine kinase has its proper name. This is exactly what I said before. That's how to maintain the integrity of the word. The other thing is, for instance, you can see SP1, that is a transcription factor. It's interesting because mRNA is highly frequent, show an higher frequency in a specific period, but disappear in this period and disappear in the other period. Then this is a clue that the people shift from one field of analysis, or someone has attempted to make some analysis on mRNA, SP1 and mRNA, but at the end of the history, the surviving DNA in data box and in terms of concept is transcription. The other is data box, similarly other, you can see the dynamics that remain at the end of the binding protein, that is acting enzyme, the RNA and the DNA. In this way, one can have the fragment of information that can be used for generate association with advanced machine learning method. Please. Okay, this lesson I show some applications. That is that I show the more recent that you have. In particular, this one, you can see that is text mining for improved exposure assessment. That could be a good point of would be a good starting point to go on the development of more efficient tools for text mining. The technology discovery in the text is more complex than if you use e-commerce or industrial data. The problem is the linguistic. At the moment, the semantic level or how to automatize the generation of semantic using linguistic data is quite complicated. Or if there are some tools, these tools are automatically copyrighted and are used, for instance, for strategic use, such as intelligence or other. We cannot know if there are, but at the moment for biomedical field, for molecular biology, many simple text mining tools are embedded to support the search of sequence or information, but not directly to give some association of the data or generate some rules. This is I think this is a challenge. I guess a challenge for the next years, because the problem is not only computer scientists, but merging linguistic and humanities and computer scientists, because the the process in which we create a concept that can be transferred in a formal way in a machine learning and data mining must be after tested on real human data that are the text. This is the protein, the other structure are quantitative, are generated by instruments. But the text on which you work and on which you prepare and plan your experiment are of this type. Many papers are very complicated to extract the knowledge of a paper, the results of what you want. Then the idea to use this text mining for different pre-processing of the data. In fact, you can consider it as a system to extract and transform the data for the other. The transformation is quite well standardized. Until the syntactic level is not, there is many tools that perform these they perform well this task. But the semantics remain a big problem. It's a problem for machine learning, it's a problem for linguistics, it's a problem. The general. Other things are that I suggest you to test, for instance, Arrowsmith. That is a good attempt to bridge different concept or different query in a database, because I guess at the moment one of the best solution. The other many tools are not yet available because this project, the text mining project seems to be in a decay phase, but because the many support tools support database are not yet available. One can click on the site to check the site also if published in a paper the website doesn't work, then one cannot access to additional information. Then the idea is to start anything, to take the data and to try new tools that possibly perform better than this one. Then it's very complicated. I guess to explain in a very raw way, because for each slides of the name identity and other we need a lesson only for one slide. But I would like to give you what is one of the kind of information that are necessary to improve machine learning methods. Fuzzy set. In this case, the use of fuzzy set or value set, or what is a sort of soft set, is absolutely necessary to perform not the basic clustering, but to perform the association among the fragment of information about the element that we are using. The other problem is the verbs, and are essentially linguistic problem, because in the case non-inhibit. You have inhibit. You don't have non. Officially is non-inhibit. From a positive meaning, assume a negative meaning. Then the context in which some words are embedded is another question to solve. The last thing is the creation of a specific vocabulary that are for cancer, that are for PubMed, and this vocabulary that are annotated, that are controlled vocabulary, such as mesh terms, for instance, is a good starting point to develop tools. for data mining or literature-based discovery, because they have controlled. Otherwise, we can start from a simple query given by user in a database. Anything can be retrieved, even if not related to the query submitted. The other approach that can be used in this way, with using advanced systems, is the links, the text to ontologies. I'm sorry, but we come back on ontology because at the moment are the core of anything to merge different data. It's possible to be working at using different level ontology, mesh term, and mine, extract from database the merging the results of a specific level of ontology and a specific level of vocabulary ontology, and you can retrieve a more restricted way. But at the moment, the two things seems to quite separate. The problem is to develop something to integrate or bridge. I don't, for my knowledge, obviously, tomorrow there is something. This is a tool that I hope that you have understood that the knowledge is not fixed, and the concept are not fixed. Then the machine learning and the discovery must be so smart to adapt to itself, because they have the capability to, for instance, the real problem, if in a classification process you have a right classification or not, or ambiguous, as I said this morning. But in the wrong classification, you can use, mainly in the case of text, can be considered also elements that are potentially interesting. This is another question: how to screen in a classification process what are the true error from the possible emerging new concept or exception to a rule. It's not an ambiguity. It's a thing completely, it has a meaning. Or initially one can put into ambiguity, but maintain. It cannot be rejected, because otherwise, if you test the same classification system after 1 year, the knowledge that you use can suggest, can match with some ambiguity and become positive. The problem is how to define, how to discriminate the error from a rule exception. That is a typical problem. That is a problem, mathematical problem to face, because it's difficult to analyze. Officially, a binary classification gives 2 or 3 class classification. You can have 1, 2, 3 classes what you want. But in the error is the management of the error, because in this error can be some information that is enough confirmed by other experiment. If I have only one microarray for a specific gene, this is only one test. You can use it, and probably this will be considered as an error or rejected, considered in its general sense, not directly. Then the problem is there. Is a true error because they are mathematical error, or it could be an exceptional to the general rules that define a class. This is the missing data, for instance, can affect this thing, or represent of outliers. How one manage the outlier is not it's not easy. There are some different options, different possibilities. And in text mining and in the unstructured knowledge discovery, more generally, this problem is increased 10 times more than quantitative data analysis. This is the last consideration about the problem that we have on unstructured data analysis. Thanks a lot. If you have any question, I am here. something that we understand.
वापस कर दिया
ये इसका
क्या
क्या हुआ सर, वो बड़े डिस्कम्फर्ट हो गए थे, वो यूट्यूब पे समझ नहीं पा रहे थे, तो वो बड़ा हमने फिर वापस वही मैं वहाँ बैठ गया सर।
या फिर जैसे वो अभी कोई प्रोजेक्टर कोई मेंटेन कर रहा है क्या, तो अपना प्रोजेक्टर काट दे और मंडे को बाहर बता है मतलब वो पॉइंट रहता है वहाँ परफेक्ट कर देगा, मंडे को निकाल देगा। पावर सप्लाई भी लेगी और वो बड़ी तो है उनके पास, वो दीजिए व्हाइट वाली डली हुई है ना, हाँ
जी
वापस कर दिया
क्या हुआ सर, वो बड़े डिस्कम्फर्ट हो गए थे,
पहले वो लगा के देखो ना सबके पास
हमने फिर वापस वही मैं वहाँ बैठ गया सर।
हाँ वो दिक्कत वो आ जाएगी, जैसे वो अपना प्रोजेक्ट काट दे और मंडे को बाहर बता पावर सप्लाई नहीं लेगी और ये हो जाएगा तो बड़ी हो जाएगा बड़ी तो
जी
केबल मेरे रूम में व्हाइट वाली